You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, here we go. We got another Saturday night here at the Six Screens. 16 years. We've never missed a Saturday night. We are here because you are here. By all means, stay with us. Well, my goodness, I tell you what, I am in a really, really good mood tonight. I know I say that just about every Saturday night. It's my favorite night of the week, and why wouldn't it be? I have all these people coming in. It's like company. It's like a big house party on Saturday nights. And you know what I like most about it? We're all on the same page. All of us have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. Well, it is so neat to be with you tonight. My name is Rick Farron, and I'm coming to you from the epicenter of apostasy, right up here in Boston, Massachusetts. And boy, I'll tell you, we are so proud of all the witnesses that are getting out up here in the Boston area. And I don't want you to worry. You're probably saying, Rick, I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. I was hoping some of these apostates could come my way. Hey, don't you worry. They're coming. They're on the way. And you're going to be hearing from more and more of them because more people are leaving the Watchtower now than ever before. It's unbelievable. The mass exodus has begun. Well, are you a PMO? Are you physically in, mentally out? Or are you a PME? Physically in and mentally in? Well, maybe. I know there's PMOs on here tonight, and I got a feeling. I just got a feeling there's some PMEs on here tonight, too. I really do, because so many people are heading to the exit door of the Watchtower. Many of them are starting to say, that's it, had enough, can't take it anymore. I mean, how much really can you take being in a cult? Anne Marie earlier made a good comment on Chad's program. She made a good comment about freedom. She says the worst day in freedom is better than the best day in a cult. I like that. I like that phrase a lot. Thank you, Anne Marie, for sharing that with us. Well, I have got to tell you something, friends. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. I mentioned earlier, maybe you didn't hear it if you weren't on YouTube, but we got a new program starting tonight. I think that's why I'm excited. I've been working with Jimmy Bell. Do you know Jimmy Bell? Jimmy Bell is a former Jehovah's Witness. He has been on the Six Screens before. And Jimmy Bell has his own program coming up tonight. Friends, you know, restarted talking about conspiracies and the New World Order and the Great Reset. Well, he started years ago. But you know, all of the things, or at least many of the things that Reese, who has a program here on our network, talked about is coming to fruition. Well, we got a man tonight, Jimmy Bell. He's also on the trail of these people that are trying to change the very government we're living in. And I want you to know this. They're doing very much the same things the Watchtower does. Yeah, they work in the same parameters. And he's going to talk about that tonight. So that's Jimmy Bell, the big picture. That's the name of his program. He'll be on here later on at 9 o'clock. And he's got a whole entourage of people. Boy, he's got people writing things for him, researching for him. He's got two other people coming on tonight. Boy, this guy's a real go-getter. So don't miss Jimmy tonight. Don't miss Jimmy tonight. Even if you miss the news here, that's fine. Go ahead, do your thing right now. But listen to Jimmy when he comes on at 9. All right, now let's take a look. Let's see what's going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Every week for 16 years we've been doing the program. There always wasn't this much news. When we started 16 years ago, well, the news basically was all puff and fluff stories from the Watchtower. The news that you saw was, oh, we're going to a convention and all the people in the city is so glad witnesses a meeting for the convention. I see none of that anymore. No, I don't. No, nobody's talking anything good about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Everything I see online is negative, critical. Everything is cynical. It's nothing good. It really, in fact, the Watchtower's image is really tarnished. People are finding out who these bums are. But you know what I came across today? It brought back a lot of memories. It was on Reddit. And you guys get on Reddit at all? That's a forum online we can post, and a lot of ex-witnesses get in there and post. And I came across a thread, a post that they would call it, and it was concerning the Bethel insider. Oh, yeah, that got my attention. I like Bethel insiders. I like Bethel whistleblowers. I really do. And so this man who is speaking for the insider, he goes by ex-Bethelite elder in the Reddit forum. And he was saying that he has a friend who is an insider at Bethel, kind of reminiscent of Johnny, right? And he says his friend is sharing information with him about what's taking place in the Watchtower right now. And I wanted to share this with you. Now, I can't confirm all of what I have here. At this point, because I can't confirm it, I'm going to say the man was nice enough to share it, but you'll have to be the judge. I know people even did the same thing to Johnny, and some of the people even on Reddit were kind of discounting this as well. But what I did do is I posted or made a comment on this post, and I asked ex-Bethelite elder, I asked him if he wanted to come on the program tonight at around 8:30, 8:45. So I put that out to him so people could hear what he had to say. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and maybe he'll be coming on around 8:30, 8:45. So we'll keep the doors open for him around that time. But let me tell you some of the things that his friend, his compadre behind the curtains and at the Watchtower is saying. He's saying the governing body is extremely paranoid. Oh my goodness. I could tell you that without ex-Bethelite man telling us that. Yeah, he says they're extremely paranoid, and quite frankly, the governing body is exhausted dealing with all the leaks and apostasy aimed at the Watchtower organization. And boy, we know there are leaks aimed at the Watchtower. And according to this whistleblower at Bethel, he's saying the governing body is exhausted. Hey, doesn't that sound good? I like the sound of that. He says the governing body is actually taking steps to go on the offensive rather than having to constantly defend themselves in court. We know the governing body has been really defending themselves in court, right? All these lawsuits against them because of covering up child molestation. We know they've been going to court in Belgium for shunning and hurting and breaking up families. We know that the Norwegian government has been looking at the witnesses. So the governing body is exhausted. They are getting tired of all of the work they have to do to defend themselves from these court cases. Now, what they're doing, according to this whistleblower, he says that they began a campaign. That is, the Watchtower organization began a campaign of reaching out to local government officials in certain areas in hopes of politicking and garnering favor with the community. Well, we've been talking about that. Haven't we talked about Brother Hendricks, this spokesperson, They're getting into some of these small communities and they're getting on their television stations and their small time newspapers and just ranting and raving how wonderful the organization is and how great it's been even during COVID. So they're doing everything they can. They're politicking. They're trying to garner favor with the local communities. That's what they've been doing. Ex-Bethelites nailed that one right on the nose because that is happening. And he also said that the governing body, now get this, I want you to listen clearly. Don't go anywhere. I want you to listen to this very clearly. They are already in the process of training potential new, younger governing body members. Now, we've been talking about that. These guys are old fogies. You take a look at Loesch, Jackson, Sanderson. Geez, you take a look at these guys and you say, my goodness, it looks like they just walked out of a nursing home. There's much speculation, he says, around Bethel as to when these new, younger governing body members will come about and rule at the Watchtower. It's much speculation. Nobody knows for sure. Friends, now listen, don't take all of this to the bank and cash it. I'm just telling you what I read. And hopefully we'll get either ex-Bethelite on here tonight or his accomplice behind the curtains of the Watchtower to come on and talk to us around 8:30. So we'll see what happens. So what we see here, according to what this whistleblower is saying, there's a high level of cognitive dissonance felt by many at Bethel. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, what is cognitive dissonance? I mean, we've learned about it. We talked about it. You know, if you have two simultaneous thoughts coming into your mind at the same time, okay? One person saying, it's a beautiful day out there, and the other person saying, no, it's not. It's raining cats and dogs. You can only go with one. It's either raining cats and dogs or it's a beautiful day. That's what cognitive dissonance is. You've got to be able to decide what you're running with. So ex-Bethelite is saying there's a lot of people with cognitive dissonance that are Bethelites. In other words, they're hearing so many things from the outside world. At the same time, they're hearing, oh, we're so wonderful, we're the truth. They don't know what to believe anymore. And especially, when did this all happen? Well, according to the ex-Bethelite here, it started during the pandemic. Remember the pandemic? Oh, yeah, I have to remember that, right? Even though it's kind of all going away. But since the pandemic lockdown, according to this ex-Bethelite, well, all of this started happening around March of 2020, when a lot of Bethelites started getting itchy. They started looking things up and trying to connect with the outside world. Now, many feel that the direction, that is, many Bethelites feel the direction provided by the governing body has been overblown and, quite frankly, overkill. Well, I've said that too. We all know it. You know, the governing body coming on, Watchtower live streaming and constantly coming on and telling you how much they love you and we're with you and don't worry, we'll be with you right to the very end. Well, many of this direction that's been provided by the governing body, many Bethelites are feeling it's been overblown. They don't believe it. They think it's too much overkill. Hey, I'm in the camp of overkill. Too much, too fast. The governing body and the branch committees, well, they will brag that they have experienced 0 COVID deaths. Now, we know we reported on here that there was like 22,000 Jehovah's Witnesses that have died right off of their live streaming website is where I got that. So we understand that. But now what they're doing is with this pandemic ending and they're now getting back to normal, they're saying that there's 0 COVID-related deaths evidently as of late. But they have no idea, according to this ex-Bethelite guy, they have no idea of the hardships, the struggles that many Bethelites had to put up with during the restrictions that were placed on them when they went into lockdown. And Bethel has been locked down. It was locked down for about 2 years. The Bethelites really couldn't go anywhere. They couldn't do anything. Many individuals at Bethel, well, he says they're struggling with mental health issues such as depression and even suicidal thoughts, which has been exacerbated by the restrictions placed on the Bethelites since the start of the lockdown. Can you imagine? I mean, it was bad enough, not being at Bethel, just living in the free world, so to speak, and being kind of locked down and you had to be careful. That was bad enough. But imagine what it was like for a Bethelite. Are you kidding me? It would have been terrible. So this has all of this pandemic and being locked down, it's all led to all sorts, according to Bethelite here, it's led to all sorts of issues at Bethel. Well, what kind of issues? What kind of issues? Well, he says issues such as drug infiltration into the facilities. Now, let me stop right there. We've had a Bethelite, Johnny the Bethelite, and how privileged we were to have this man come on every couple of weeks and share thoughts with us. A lot of people didn't believe it. But what this Bethelite's talking about is a lot of the same things that Johnny the Bethelite talked about, and everybody, for the most part, sucking it up and totally believing it. And I believe it too, because I know Johnny said a lot of the same things. So drugs infiltrating the Bethel facilities, Johnny talked about that, how they were finding heroin and hardcore drugs and alcohol all throughout Bethel, and the bathrooms especially. So this Bethelite's saying the same thing, that the drugs are infiltrating the facilities, alcoholism, broken marital relationships. Yeah, a lot of the marriages of Bethel, according to this man, are breaking up. Unfortunately, even cases of domestic abuse between married couples. So they're fighting. They're abusing. They have domestic abuse going on at Bethel. Can you believe it? I do. I think you guys do too. Now, if the average rank and file member knew of the mental health crisis as well as all the worldly crap that goes on at Bethel, according to a Bethelite man here, they would be quite appalled. So there you have it. These are some of the things this man talked about. And, well, there's more. There's more. I won't go into all of it, but I will go into this. I have to say that I got to mention this. I can't go on without mentioning this. He says that, like we've always said, that it's simply a $1 billion corporation, no different than any other major corporation in existence today. Friends, the Watchtower is nothing more than a big business masquerading as a religion. This I like as well. The ex-Bethelite was saying God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are in no way involved in the governing body's decisions. Did you know that? I knew it. I think you knew it too. How could God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus be directing an organization that is doing all of these awful things? How can that be? And yet, they're giving direction that affect millions of people's lives. He says it's just a simple group of men sitting at a table, acting on what they feel is right at the moment. That's it. That's how I feel too. So I don't know how you feel, but maybe you knew a lot of this. Maybe you saw that Reddit post, but I had to bring it up tonight because, boy, I'll tell you what, the more we've been doing this program, the more and more things we're hearing, right? And I believe everything that's being said here by ex-Bethelite. But, I'll leave that up to you. If you want to believe what I said, that's okay. I'm not going to hold you hostage. But, I have to say that one day One day, I hope that many of these Bethelites will taste freedom and be able to tell their full story here on the 6 screens. Right now, maybe it's not existing. Maybe they don't have full freedom yet, but I believe they will. And I believe that a lot of these Bethelites are going to be in somewhat of a problem when they do leave the Watchtower. And this is why many of them are staying in right now when they're PMOs. Because think about it, the brothers and sisters that have been at Bethel for 10, 20 years, are they going to leave with no jobs? Are they going to leave with no one to go to, no family, no savings, no guarantee that they will be able to return if they did leave? So this is a predicament. This is the pickle that many of these Bethelites are in. So I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank ex-witness man coming on here, telling his story. And I want to thank him for letting this information be leaked out on Reddit. Thank you very much. We hope to hear from you if you're listening in. We hope to hear from you at 8:30 in the 8:30 time zone between 8:30 and 9. Well, I just wanted to bring that up. Anyone have any thoughts on that at all? You have any thoughts on that? If you do, go ahead. It's *6. Say hello to us. Does that how's that strike your fancy? You like hearing things like that? Oh, well, I do.
Well, Rick, it's always been like, from I grew up as a child in the witnesses. I mean, I could go back to, I think it was 67 or 68. Remember when they started to call the Tuesday night meeting rendezvous? And
Yeah.
that just lasted, what, did it last a year? And the most damning one, remember when they said if a sister was attacked and if she didn't scream, if the attacker tried to rape her, she would have been disfellowshipped? Well, now, quote me the scripture in the Bible that says that, because it's been absolutely crazy for like decades.
Yeah, well, there's no scripture. Well, Shirley went off the call here. Who else is on with us? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's Braden. How are you doing, Rick?
Braden, I'm doing good.
That's good. I've always wondered about the 144,000. I wonder, is it, what the witnesses say, or is it Watchtower having 144,000 high-end properties all over the world?
Well, I mean, there's a lot on there, right? We don't have time to go into all of that tonight, but it's not 144,000. The doctrine is false on that, Braden. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Braden. Who's next? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Joe from Colorado.
Yes, Joe.
You were talking about the drugs being brought into Bethel. I could believe that, and the reason I will tell you that, in two of the congregations I served in, there was a lot of mental illness, depression, anxiety, and a lot of the drugs that were being used by a lot of the brothers and sisters was Xanax. I take clonazepam. It's benzodiazepine. But I knew of several brothers that when they got hurt, they got addicted to narcotics. And, narcotics, it affects the serotonin levels too. And what happens is a lot of these brothers wouldn't get help, and they would stay on the narcotics because it would help them deal with being in the Watchtower. But I remember visiting with many brothers and sisters that were so anxious, so depressed. They were on benzodiazepines and, of course, other psych drugs. But yeah, there were several. There were a couple elders actually that were on narcotics for a long period of time. Ended up having to get help to get off the narcotics. So I can see that happening in Bethel. drugs being brought into Bethel to help these Bethelites cope with being on lockdown.
Yeah, well, you can see that, Joe. Well, thank you for adding some credibility to that. I believe it too. I really, really do. Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Rick, this is Justin. Haven't called in a while, but I was just going to say that I talked to a buddy of mine at Bethel the other day, and just speaking to your point, he's not on drugs or anything like that, but when the lockdown first started, and you're correct, they went in their rooms, and he's the married brother. He asked me to send him some Hennessy. Me and him like Hennessy or whatnot. Even when I was at Bethel, we would have a drink or two. We never got drunk, anything like that, but I had mailed it to him. I wrapped it up in bubble wrap, mailed it or whatnot. So I called him. I said, "Hey, man, did you get the package? I overnighted it." He said, "No." He said Bethel is running it through some type of scanner for COVID at the time. And he said it would probably take him about 4 days before he would get it. But I found that interesting. So he never would call me about sending anything like that before. But definitely, I think his alcohol drinking definitely went up. Now, he's not an alcoholic. He's been there now at Bethel probably 29 years. Him and his wife, well, she's not been there that long, but another side point I was going to bring up, he called me the other day as well. They're still letting people go from Bethel. So he reached out to me and he asked me, "Hey, is there any job openings where you work?" Because there's a brother that's been reassigned. That's what they call it when they let you go. And he's been at Bethel probably 27 years. And they're still letting people go. And I just found that amazing. So my buddy, he's at Patterson, but he lives off-site. They have some residents that are not on the grounds of Bethel at Patterson, but they have some apartments off-site. And even to get his mail, if you send him something to Patterson, he would have to go to to Bethel or Patterson to get the packages. But I thought that was interesting. And to your point, it probably, I don't know about drugs. I didn't see any drugs when I was there at Bethel, but definitely alcohol use. Definitely that was pretty high at Bethel. But that's a very interesting point that person brings up. But I just wanted to say hello. Don't want to monopolize the time, and just wanted to say thank you for letting me speak there, Rick. Thank you.
Well, Justin, always good to hear from you. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back. Go ahead. Yep.
Can I ask a question to the Bethelite? He had mentioned that they're still letting individuals go, reassigning them. So we know they don't give them any help. What are your thoughts on the individuals that were let go? I mean, how did they survive? I mean, being put out on the streets. I mean, the Watchtower didn't provide them any bus fare or airfare, give them any money so they could start with. So how did a lot of those individuals fare?
Well, I got to tell you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like I said, to be fair, I wasn't there when they were doing the big layoff. I was there between 93 and 98. Those were the years I served at Brooklyn Bethel. But like I said, I still have a lot of good friends there. I'm a PMO myself. But, my buddy, when I speak to him and I ask him about it, because me and him, and he's pretty high up at Bethel too. I won't give his name, but I asked him sometime, I just said, "Hey, how are you and your wife? If they let you go, what are you thinking?" And, of course, he gives me the line with, we're faithful to Jehovah. He's going to provide, the birds have no nest. He gives me that answer or whatnot. But I got to tell you, I could hear it in his voice, and me and him are good friends. He's nervous about it because we do speak about it, whatnot. And they don't provide any other type of assistance unless you're somebody that's like a R.P. Johnson. He's down in the trailer in Florida. They provide him with special pioneer status, and they give him a stipend. That brother, somebody like a Haskell Gray or somebody like that. But if you're just a regular Bethelite, so to speak, with no major high position there and they let you go, you're pretty much on your own unless you get that special pioneer status. And those special pioneers, they do get a stipend. I don't know if you're aware of that, but, you know, he's nervous. Him and his wife, they're definitely nervous because any moment they could say, let you go. There's no contract. There's no tenure at Bethel. And, you know, middle-aged guy, just high school education. He's developed some training there at Bethel, but I gotta tell you, I feel for my buddy, and I will say this: at the company that I work for, I do pretty good, and I always tell him that, hey, if you do get let go, I will speak to the people where I work to get you on, and I will vouch for this guy. Like I said, me and him came into Bethel pretty much around the same time. I think he came a couple of years before me. We were just really good friends, and we just remained friends, you know, all these years. And but it is tough. It really, really is tough. Like I said, I hear it in his voice, and you know, it's a tough time there. It's definitely a tough time at Bethel. There's no doubt about it. But whatnot. I hope that answered your question, Joe. Hope it wasn't too long-winded answer.
Okay, well, thank you, Justin. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you answered that for Joe with not a problem.
Hey, Justin, is it okay if I ask you a question? Are you still there?
Shirley, make it very quick. We got a lot of news to cover tonight, so go ahead. One more quick.
Okay, because I remember back a couple of months ago, you mentioned you were in the upper New York Harlem congregations a while back.
Yeah, I was in Harlem congregation.
Do you remember the Edgecombe congregation?
I do remember Edgecombe. Yep, I do.
Do you know a family, the last name Miller? Victor and Shirley Miller, by any chance?
Victor and Shirley Miller.
Because that's when, when I was just a baby, my mother got baptized in the 58 International Assembly. That's where we started out before he moved to Queens, and that was our congregation, Edgecombe. So, and so I was just, you know.
Say that the congregations that were there on 129th and St. Nicholas was Amsterdam, Lenox, and Terrace congregation. Those were the three congregations that
I remember definitely we went to Edgecombe. It was like in a brownstone, but we had to go like in the downstairs. And it was, I don't know where they might be meeting now, if there is an Edgecombe right now, but I just wanted to pass that by you because Edgecombe, that's where
that's
all
the Rains. He went to Edgecombe. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I wanted to know, if you remember the Edgecombe congregation.
All right, good. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Justin. Okay, we've got some more stories to cover. We shortened our news tonight because we have a brand new program coming on a half hour earlier. Usually go 2.5 hours on news. But we got the big picture coming in with Jimmy Bell at 9 o'clock. So we got a lot of stuff to cover. I still have some guests we got to get on here. So just kind of moving quick through this. I just wanted to bring this up tonight, too, is excuse me, well, the pollen's making me choke. How will the deteriorating world economy affect Watchtower building projects? That's something I just want to discuss with you tonight. Folks, you are seeing it. You're going to the store. You're seeing food up about 10%. You're seeing gas prices double, haven't you? You're seeing electricity cost high, entertainment, and namely everything that you purchase is going up. Well, I'm thinking the Watchtower, as big as they are, well, they've got to be spending more money too. And you know something, it's going to get even worse as we go downstream. You want to bear in mind that these prices look like they're going to continue to rise. Gasoline, food, heating, entertainment, nearly everything. And so I just want to bring this up tonight because I got thinking about this week. The majority of the Jehovah's Witnesses that still believe, can they really donate money in this weak economy with inflation running rampant? And just a little meager amount is probably all they could do. And I'm sure the Watchtower is starting to see this in their cash flow vouchers. Their disposable income, that is the rank and file Jehovah's Witness, their disposable income will be wiped out by the increase in all of these things that we just mentioned. There'll be no money to give to the Watchtower. Well, how will the governing body adjust to all of this? I mean, they're used to buckets loads of cash coming into the Watchtower. I really have to tell you, if people don't have the money, they can't give the money. The old saying, how do you get money out of a rock? You don't. So I'm beginning to think the Watchtower is going to start feeling a little bit of a pinch here, right? I mean, I know they got billions. I mean, they're not they're eating fine. Believe me, don't worry about that. But I know the governing body, and I know Watchtower. They are totally out of touch with reality. They pretend that. Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, it's David.
Well, David, why are you interrupting me during the news? Why are you interrupting me during the news? You got something important to say?
I won't say much.
Well, yeah, just hold on. I mean, just hold on. Right in the middle of a news story. That's kind of, when I'm done with the news, you come in and talk to me. I would appreciate that. If you do that, I really would appreciate it, David. I love you. I know you know that. But at the same time, I got things I'm doing here. You come in, well, after the news, I'll be glad to listen to you. So I was saying the governing body is out of touch with reality. They pretend that no one is struggling because they're well taken care of at the headquarters, right? Oh, yeah. That's exactly what's going on. The big guys are making out like bandits. And it would be just like the Watchtower to use a broadcast, a magazine, an article, a morning worship to plead for more money while everybody is struggling. That's their mode of operation, isn't it? Ask for more money, more money, more money. How is it that they're going to be able to go forward with this big mega $1 million movie studio? Well into the millions of dollars. How are they going to be able to go forward with this with their money shrinking up on the other side? Don't you think they want to put it on hold right now with the high cost of everything? Well, haven't they've always told us when we were faithful Jehovah's Witnesses, didn't they tell us that we had to count the cost before we would begin a project? Yeah. I mean, are they doing that? Do they practice what they teach? Well, I can certainly hope, or at least see, I hope these projects continue to go forward, because I think it's going to really crimp them for cash. I really do. Now, I know the Watchtower. My wife, Susan, here, she's been spending a lot of time on Watchtower stock holdings and Watchtower portfolios. And she's saying, Rick, the Watchtower is filthy rich in stock investments. And I'm sure they'll survive. But this is investments. This is money they have invested. I'm talking about cash. They need cash coming in. They're going to keep squeezing. They're going to keep guilting the Jehovah's Witnesses that, nobody comes to Jehovah empty-handed. Now, that's basically what they're preaching now. So they're going to squeeze the pennies out of the poor old
I think they're going to do a streaming service, Rick.
A what service, Pixie?
You know, when you have a subscription television or you stream a movie,
yeah,
and you give cash to get a copy of the movie?
Yeah.
I think that's what they're banking on, because people don't have secondhand cars now to drive to Kingdom Halls. MSNBC was talking about the price of lumber and goods to redo homes and finish existing homes for sale, which is booming right now. So the rank and file will probably keep streaming. They'll have it where we give a donation to stream the shows.
Yeah, I got you. No, that's many people have suggested that, Pixie. Thank you. That's something that I do think they're doing. So I'm just saying, the Watchtower is going to be keeping an eye on these big monumental $1 million projects, right? Because I believe the cash flow is going to start, easing up a little bit. But something, the other thing is they got to take advantage of all this free labor. They got to take advantage of all this free labor while they can. So they're going to keep pushing. And, they're going to go with this studio. They're going to start broadcasting like all of the other televangelists. And I'm just going to tell you, it's not going to be appealing. Their broadcasts are not going to be appealing to the general public. Don't expect any money from them, Watchtower. But, you know, maybe they can squeeze it out, like Pixie just said, doing a streaming service. You know, I'm just thinking here, we know the Watchtower has such an extremist position. They have a negative image in the public. How does the Watchtower, how is it that you just can't put lipstick on a pig and say it's not a pig? You've heard that saying, right? Well, that's exactly what the Watchtower is doing right now. They're trying to put lipstick on themselves, make them look good, so they'll be able to survive through all of this inflationary period. So no one really knows. No one really knows the financial assets of the organization. We get clues. We get clues as people are doing research, like my wife, and telling me this information. So it's really hard to answer really how much money they have in cash. But I'm sure they'll continue to ask for more money without any question. It takes an enormous amount of money to keep the organization running. Did you know that? Think about it. Those Bethelites have to eat. They need medical care. They have to use electricity. They are there, and the Watchtower's got to be paying them. Not a lot of money, but you multiply it over thousands of Bethelites, and it's very, very, very expensive. So the inflow of money is shrinking, I am sure, coming from donations, and it's not keeping up with their expenses. I really would think that. Then they have to cut somewhere or face the reality of depleting their cash investments. No, nobody wants to use their investment money, but that's what the Watchtower may be doing. Ron, now, David, if you want to speak up, David, now you got something to say about money in the Watchtower, I'm glad to hear from you. David, come on in from Virginia. Go ahead, you're on with us. All right. Well, does someone want to speak up? Go ahead. I hear some sniffling and I hear some open mics. If you want to speak up, fine. But, you know, the people here listening tonight, they're going to say, well, Rick, the Watchtower, I mean, they have investments, but look at the real estate. Oh, my goodness, Rick, real estate. Look at all the land they own. Look at all the facilities. Look at all the Kingdom Halls. Well, I'm going to tell you something. That is not liquid cash. That is not liquid cash. You can't spend a Kingdom Hall until it's sold. And sometimes selling this stuff takes time. And, you know, the Watchtower, whether you guys realize it or not, that the Watchtower has made big boo-boos when it comes to purchasing land and real estate. I'm going to tell you, I know one example that sticks out in my mind. It's right up there in Ramapo, New York. Yeah, back in 2009, the Watchtower bought 249 acres of land, 11.5 million. I remember talking about this on our news program. So they bought 249 acres of land. They weren't sure what they were going to do with it. They bought it from a company called Lauderdale Properties. And they had the option when they bought the land that if they decided they didn't want it, they could return it back to the owner, Lauderdale Properties, and they would get their money back. Well, there was a lot of confusion going on at Watchtower at the time. A lot of the higher up mucky mucks, governing body members and officials, they were not all in unison to what to do. So they let the time period lapse. So then they landed up with 249 acres that they paid $11.5 million for. And now they don't know what to do with it. So, well, we'll build a movie studio. That's why the movie studio, they're building the movie studio because this land, they paid a lot of money for it. Now they're going to spend more money. So they found themselves stuck with a large property, a large piece of property that now they got to do something with it. And that's why they're building the movie studio. I mean, they're building it also to try to get more money through their tele-evangelizing, but they could do that right at Warwick. But this is going to be a great way to generate revenue. But I don't know how much you're going to generate in cash when we have all of this inflation. What do you guys think? What do you think? You want to make any comments on this? It certainly would be good if you want to, but if not, you don't have to. That's we got more stories to talk about. Well,
Hello.
Hey, Rick.
Yes, Randy.
I just, maybe it's just the perspective that I see being here in Oklahoma, where it's kind of a poor area. But time I was a Jehovah's Witness, the majority of the ones that were Jehovah's Witnesses in the congregations here were very poor. I mean, I doubt if they put in any money, if much at all. The only ones who put in money would be just the elect few. You could count on one hand who is actually supporting the expenses of the hall. And I see if that's the same way it is now, Watchtowers maybe getting, when people die, they get the inheritance and things like that. So I don't know if it's going to be affecting them, because people that still got the money, I know maybe their portfolios went down a little bit, but for them, they still don't hurt. I mean, like when I see rich people, when they say they're really hurting a lot, that means they're not going to go bear hunting in Alaska or something,
Well, that's right. Where you live out there, Randy, Oklahoma, a lot of people don't have the jobs they have in the biggest cities, so they don't have the money to give to the Watchtower. Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Oh, we had someone else on there. Go ahead. Speak up. What do you think?
There was a study by Pew Research. They are an independent statistical thing. And they rated the witnesses as the poorest religion in America beneath the Pentecostals. The richest religions were the Hindu, and then the Jewish people and the Episcopals. But the witnesses were on the bottom rung underneath the Pentecostals.
Well, there you have it. My goodness, Pixie. Well, they're not a rich organization. They're really not a rich organization at all. But thank you for commenting on that. Well, let's move.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, go ahead, Susan. Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering if maybe I'm just blind, but the Watchtower is always crying, "I need money." But before, they used to print magazines and run huge presses and buy tons of ink and paper. But they don't have that expense anymore. And then we were let to know that they're letting people go from Bethel, sending them home, so to speak, which means barely hanging them out to dry. They don't give them any money. There's no severance pay. They may be stock heavy, that's true, but they could still sell them and at least get their money back. So I don't know, are they really going broke? Because it seems that they're kind of dumping all the things that require most of their expenses.
Thank you for your research, Susan. I think the Watchtower Society has $40 billion, and that's in America alone. I don't have hard statistics on it, but that's what somebody told me long ago. But the people themselves are the poorest educated and poorest in America.
Yeah, well, there you go. No, I'm with you, Pixie. Well, thank you, Pixie, for letting us hear that. Anyways, I want to let you guys know there's a new movie out.
Hey, Rick?
Yes, Braden.
Oh, I was just going to make a comment about, the governing body's constant pleas for money.
Yeah.
I can only imagine in a broadcast in a couple months from now, Dopey getting back up on the stage and, because of inflation, the money going out is greater than what is coming in. We're going to ask you guys, to be a little bit more lending. And it's like, I can only imagine some poor sister out there who's on an old age pension, and she's perhaps like, I don't know, to be a good example, giving more than she can. And by doing that, it might be putting less food on her table. But they continue to ask. Like, I mean, the majority of us aren't rich. Like, we can't be footing bills. And quite frankly, it's like, it's almost how much, whatever you donate, it's kind of like, what's your spirituality level? If you're donating, $500 a month, you're good spiritually. If you're donating $10 a month, well, you could be doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
The constant cash grab.
Well, they're always going to ask. They always didn't ask as much as they are as of late. Years ago, they had a box in the back of the hall. If you felt moved to put some money in, you did. I never really heard much about them asking until I would say around the mid-90s. They started really pumping up the coffers. They wanted more cash. So, but thank you, Braden. Thank you very much for.
Hey, Rick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Rick, one last thing. Who's the nice lady who always calls in? She was on before.
Susan, the one
is it Pixie?
Well, there's a Pixie woman too, yeah.
I think it was Pixie. Yeah. I also wanted to just add to that how she mentioned that the lowest income out of all the religions are Jehovah's Witnesses. Interestingly enough, as well, I mean, obviously they are the least educated as well. So I thought I'd just add that in there. It's always good to hear your comments, Pixie.
Well, there you go. There you go. Thank you, Braden. Listen, keep cranking away at it. How about the movie? Did you guys know there's a new movie coming out? It's not out right now, but it's called You Can Live Forever. And you guessed it, the story of, now get this, I mean, this is really something else. The story of the romance between two young women in a Jehovah's Witness home. I'm going to play a trailer here shortly, so you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about. But the Canadian drama, it's made in Canada. The Canadian drama, You Can Live Forever, is setting up for the world premiere this weekend at the Tribeca Festival. Here's the first look trailer. We're gonna show you it in just a few seconds, a few minutes. But anyways, we do have the writers of this, the screenwriters who wrote for the movie. They are Montreal, Canada based, and Sarah Watts and Mark Slutsky. They're the ones that wrote this. They, in fact, themselves were Jehovah's Witnesses growing up. So I think the movie should have a good spin because of that. It's always good that, witnesses can kind of give the information that's needed to make the movie. So anyways, it's actually takes place in the early 90s, and it follows a gay teen named Jamie O'Driscoll. And she is sent to live with her devout Jehovah's Witness relatives after the death of her father. And, well, I think you got the idea. She falls in love with the daughter of a prominent witness elder. I mean, it's quite a convoluted story. And so anyways, it's coming out. I'm going to play a short clip here. So the name of the movie is You Can Live Forever. So it's a gay girl that falls in love with another Jehovah's Witness daughter. And I'm sure, I like to see the movie. I like to see the movie. But let me play you the clip. Let's listen in. If you're on YouTube, you should hear it. If you're on Facebook, you should hear it as well and see it as well on YouTube. Well, let's see what it is. Let's see if we can't get the movie started here. Let me just make sure that I do have this up so it is in the queue. Yeah, it is in the queue. So let's do this. Let's play it. Why was that? Just give me 1 second here. I just got to get to the right. I'll tell you, there's so many things that can mess up here. But I'll play the clip and see what you think. Let me just get in here and get the right clip for some reason. I want to just see that clip, darn it. Boy, I got it right here on YouTube. Why can't you see it? Just give it a second here, friends. I know I go through this all the time, but I want you really to, I'm going to stop sharing this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this one. So just give us a second. I want you to hear this. This is, and if you see it, it's even very, very provocative. It really is. I think it's kind of, it's going to grab a lot of attention, I would think. So let me just see what we got here. You Can Live Forever. There's the official trailer. Let's bring it on right now. Let's share it and let's play it.
Jehovah God our Father, we thank you for bringing Jamie to us safely. We pray that she will feel your love and wisdom in her heart.
I hope you pack something nice to wear to the meeting tomorrow. The truth is a huge part of our lives. Besides, you might enjoy it.
Please rise.
I'm Marika. Do I call you Sister Marika? It sounds weird when you say it.
Thank you, our Father, for this food you've blessed us with this evening. Thank you for choosing us to be your witnesses.
Isn't it beautiful? Are you trying to convert me? Not unless you want me to.
Do you recognize yourself as a sinner?
I do.
Have you repented of your sins?
It's showing the two witness girls falling in love with one
So
another.
you are Jehovah.
Not gonna let me go?
Well, there you have it. That's the movie. Isn't it neat that there's a lot of documentaries, full-length motion pictures, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, Facebook posts, Facebook groups, all of the bad exposure the Watchtower is getting. Do we have someone want to say something? Go ahead. All right. So anyways, it's going to be kind of tough on the producers that don't know a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses when they're making a movie like this. There's so many things that you got to just be careful with. I mean, you get copyright written and trademark issues to deal with. And so, some people online have been commenting, well, that movie, there's some sayings in there that the witnesses never use. And, that's another thing they say, gee, it'd be good if they could get it right. But I kind of checked it out. In the movie, they were using the word, and if you guys ever heard this, let me know. I have heard it, but some people online were saying they never heard it. When people say a prayer as Jehovah's Witnesses, and we all did, if we were witnesses, we all said a prayer, men and women. Did you ever pray, thank you for choosing us to be your witnesses? I remember praying that. So they mentioned that they did a prayer in the movie, and they mentioned that, thank you for choosing us to be our witnesses. And I remember doing that, but some people said, no, I never heard that. But no, it's true. It is. That's a saying. So that one proved to be real. So I found that rather fascinating. So that's very, very interesting. Well, any thoughts on the movie? You gonna run out and see the movie?
Yeah, Rick, I've never heard of that. My mother was like the uber witness, and I never remember in my prayers or her prayers being told to say, thank you for choosing me to be a witness. That's a new one on me.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
You never heard that? No, I have heard it. And I have actually even heard witnesses pray that. Yeah. So that's fascinating. So anyways, the movie will be out. I don't know when, but the trailer is out now. I just want to see if we have our friend. I'm going to bring Nathan Natis. Nathan, hang in here for a little bit. We're going to be bringing you on very, very shortly. So kind of hang in here with us. We're going to bring Nathan Natis. He was on last week. We had Barbara Anderson on. I wanted to talk to Nathan, but we had Barbara. She wanted to talk a lot last week about a lot of things, so we kept her on. But we have Nathan Natis coming back on with us. You know him from JWN, the discussion board, but he wants to just talk to us briefly tonight about a few things. So hang in, Nathan, if you're out there with us right now, and we'll get to you.
You're standing by.
All right, thank you. He's going to let you know more about himself as well. So we're going to get in there and do that. So there you go. All right, I had some more things I wanted to share here with us. But anyways, let's bring Nathan in right now. Nathan, hello.
Yes, Rick.
Okay, there you are. We're going to bring you in right now. I was trying to get to another story here, but I can't find it right now. But I wanted to bring you in. Nathan, just to take a couple of minutes, tell people who you are, what you're doing, and then we're going to get into some of the things that we have here that you've sent me, okay?
I'm an ex-Jehovah's Witness from Queens, New York. When I was going to the meetings, I was attending the Sunnyside and Middle Village Kingdom Halls in in Queens, Elmhurst or somewhere near there. My real name is James Hill, as I explained a couple of weeks ago. I have a couple of brothers who are still both currently associated with the Watchtower. My twin brother, John, spent some time in Bethel. Strangely enough, he's never wanted to talk very much about his Bethel experiences, and I don't think that's because they were on such a high spiritual level that he couldn't share them with an unbeliever like myself. My younger brother, David, attends congregation in Brooklyn. I believe it's the Bay Ridge congregation, and I've been told that he's an elder in that congregation. Never had that verified by anybody. I've been on JWD discussion board for, I think it's about 16 years, perhaps longer than that. During the period of time when I first left the organization, because I found out that there was a pedophile in the Middle Village congregation, and that nothing was done to subject this person to any kind of discipline. He was allowed to continue praying for the congregation, delivering talks from the podium. I realized at that time that this was not a righteous organization, and I resigned as a pioneer and as a ministerial servant. At the time, just prior to this happening, I had given my first public talk for 1 hour on a Sunday. Needless to say, there was no second talk after that. Then I had an opportunity to move across the country, which made it possible for me to fade so that I was never subject to disfellowshipping or anything like that. And that's a topic on which either of my brothers would happily opine that although I technically escaped disfellowshipping, I certainly deserved to have been. Well, tough. That's the way the rules are, and that's the way they're played. Eventually, during the time that I was exploring JWD and in conversation with various other apostates who I could see were doing everything that they could to spread the word, I decided that since it was commonly held that the worst enemy the Watchtower had was its own publications, I decided that I would begin republishing some of those books. In order to test myself, I gave myself the challenge of digitizing the entire aid book and turning it into a searchable PDF file, which I burned to DVDs or CDs, perhaps at that time, and I distributed them worldwide at my expense to anyone who wanted one. The audience back then was much smaller, but what soured that enterprise for me was that there were some people who requested a free copy of the DVD and then appeared on the internet offering copies of my work for price. In other words, they were profiting by merely duplicating the work that I had done, burning it onto another CD and selling those online. I was able to get those people to agree to shut down by sending them some carefully worded letters. And I felt that I needed to find another way of getting this information distributed. At about that time, Don Cameron published his excellent book, Captives of a Concept, which I purchased, and I asked Don Cameron how it was that he produced such a fine-looking book, which anyone who hasn't heard of it, I would urge you to go to lulu.com and look into buying a copy of that book for yourself. It belongs in every apostate's library, in my opinion, and I don't receive any compensation from Don for making that endorsement. But Don explained how the Lulu process worked, and it appealed to me greatly, because basically the process is that you write the book that you want to produce. You send that file along with any cover art that you wish to have to Lulu in the form of PDF files. Lulu stores your files on their computer. You always retain full rights to your work so that you can request that they be withdrawn at any time. Lulu does not claim to own your work, but what Lulu does is they publish on demand, which means if a person wants a copy of the book, then that copy is printed on Lulu's presses. It's bound by Lulu's bindery with the covers that you've chosen, and then Lulu handles the mailing out of the books, finished books. If you've chosen to receive any kind of a royalty for your work, Lulu sends you a quarterly check for the books that they've sold that belong to you. In my experience with the few books that I have under the Old Light reprints storefront, so to speak, the amount of the royalty that I get each quarter is about enough to pay for a large pepperoni pizza 4 times a year. It's not what I would consider any kind of an excellent money stream. Certainly not something that George Soros would be interested in getting involved with.
Well, I was thinking he probably would. Because you know what it is in the ex-witness world, and you and I had a little discussion about this today, Jim. And in the ex-witness world, now, did anyone charge you to leave the Watchtower and find out about the corruptness in there?
No, certainly not.
Yeah. And I know that you have taken this project on. We're going to show some of the books here, but you took this project on at a really high cost, I can tell you. I know you won't say, and you don't have to, but this cost you a lot of money to do this. And I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned to me, Rick, you know, I got out for free and I don't expect anybody to have to pay. And I appreciate that. I really, really do. Because when money's involved, you have to keep meeting the expectations of more money coming in. And how do you do that? And that would be a treadmill you wouldn't want to be on. But I appreciate your efforts on this. Now, I'm going to show some books. Okay. I don't know if you're watching YouTube or not. If you can see them.
I'm not watching right now.
All right. Well, I can just tell you the books. I mean, this one here we know all about. These are reprints. And Jim went to the highest degree of evaluating each book. He did not change any words. He made sure everything is exactly the way it is in the book when it was reprinted by Lulu. So I'm going to show you this book right here. It's called Millions Now Living Will Never Die. You know the book I'm talking about, friends. In fact, I'll tell you what, this book, if you bought it, now this is a reprint, but if you bought a Millions Now Living book, if you could even find one, well, what would you pay for it today, Jim?
Oh, it would be a couple of $100 probably for an original copy, and it would have shown it's almost 100 years of age in terms of yellowed, brittle paper, and well, it's also a small format, not that easy to read because of the small size of the pamphlet. But you pay a couple $100 for it. My reprints are, the pages are photographic enlargements of the original pages, printed on 8.5 by 11-inch paper. So it's easy to read, nice size type, nice contrast. The few illustrations are reproduced as well as they can be with today's equipment. There's no way of improving the artwork that was in the original. And as Rick said, not a word has been changed in the interior of the book. There is a little bit of commentary on the back of the book to describe exactly what the product is, because not everybody is completely familiar with these. And Rick and I are working together to make copies of these books available to anyone for the asking. You write to Rick and give him your name and address, and he'll get the books out to you.
There you have it. Now, what we got, let's bring on, just tell us a little bit. I'm going to have you just say a little bit about some of these books. So tell us, for the audience that's listening, if they're not sure what the Millions Now Living book is about, just briefly explain what that book is all about.
Well, the Millions Now Living Will Never Die was a talk that was given by Rutherford in 1918 in Los Angeles, California. Then a couple of years later, it was published as this book, and it predicted the resurrection of the ancient worthies in 1925. This set up the most recent example. I'll rephrase that. Although Charles Taze Russell made some predictions about the end of the world and when God's kingdom would come to earth, it wasn't until Rutherford's reign as president of the Watchtower Society that the effort was really pumped up. And so there were people who went around in sound cars promoting the talk and promoting the booklet. And of course, as we know, in 1925, nothing along the line of Rutherford's predictions took place.
Well, that's a good synopsis, and that book was very important in getting many people into the Watchtower organization. So we have that one. So you meticulously reproduced that, reprinted it through Lulu. Now this one here is a very, boy, I'll tell you what, I have the original book here. It's called The Way to Paradise, but you have a reprint here. And that also is another book that would be bring a lot of money on eBay and Amazon. What is The Way to Paradise all about, Jim?
Well, The Way to Paradise was published in 1924, and it was the first Watchtower primer written primarily for children. Any of you familiar with the Pink Paradise book from the 1950s, or the later book, My Book of Bible Stories, would have a good idea of the thrust of this book. Instead of being written by Rutherford, who, in my opinion, didn't have much use for children at all, this book was written by W.E. Van Amberg, who served as the Secretary-Treasurer of the Watchtower Society through the administrations of Russell, Rutherford, and Knorr. He is one of the longest-serving members of the Bethel family ever. And in the Watchtower of 1923, it described the book as a children's book. The Way to Paradise is the title of the new book for children. It was planned to have been book ready for Christmas, but pen drawings of the illustrations selected have delayed the publication. It can be announced, that the book will be ready about February 1st. It will contain 256 pages, including 40 illustrations, is cloth bound, gold stamped, about 5 by 7.5 inches. Price per copy is 63 cents. In quantities of 50 or more, 40 cents. And that was the Watchtower in 1923. One of the things that Rutherford did, because he didn't like very much competition, was he saw to it that this book didn't receive very much publicity at all after that initial announcement. Now, the replica reprint that I've provided is in the 8.5 by 11 inch format. The pages are photographic enlargements of the original pages, cleaned up to remove the ink splashes and the fly specks that were so common on books from that time. And if you were to buy it at Lulu, I'll be quite honest, because Lulu has to cover their overhead for paper and binding and the printing presses and all of that. Even with my small royalty, it's going to cost a lot more than 65 cents. But it's still a very interesting book for people who are interested in the history of the Watchtower. And one of the interesting things also is that this book explains how the pyramid in Giza is God's first Bible to mankind. It also expounds on the Jubilee that will begin in 1925 and how Earth will be brought under the reign of King Jesus. It also included in the book, at the end, is a biography titled Who Was W.E. Van Amberg, which I put together with the assistance of a number of people on JWD, each of whom was compensated for their contribution. They helped me collect photographs of headstones and things of that like historical photographs of W.E. Van Amberg with Russell and all of that. And it also talks about Van Amberg's involvement in the Miracle Wheat scandal that anyone familiar with Watchtower history knows. I'm very pleased to make this book available?
Well, we got it here, and we're going to tell you how you can get it. And also we have here a people for his name. A people for his name. Just briefly explain that to us. Now, this is not a Watchtower publication. Evidently, it's written to expose them, right?
Yes, that's correct. People for his name was originally issued under the pen name Timothy White, and was a history of the Watchtower organization. It was one of the first really good historical retracements of the Watchtower, and it sadly didn't receive much of an audience at the time, just bad timing on the author's part, and he ended up taking the bulk of the, now back to back up a little bit, at the time the author originally published these books, there was no Lulu.com. The way the publishing companies worked back then was you had to buy, let's say, 500, 1,000 copies of your book. They would print them up and mail them to you, ship them to you, and then you would take them and you would put them in your garage, and you would fill orders on your own as necessary. Now, Timothy White, whose real name is Tony Wills, had a number of these books that he distributed to various libraries on the West Coast and throughout the country, but they're still very, very difficult to find. I heard the story of Tony Wills' efforts to publish, and I was moved with empathy for the rejection that he felt when he took the bulk of the books that he had printed and paid for. He took them to the local dump and set them on fire. He was so discouraged with the lack of acceptance. Now, Tony Wills is a very private person, and he's not on any JW discussion boards that I'm aware of. And so I had to put on my deerstalker cap and do a little detective work, but I was able to track down Tony Wills, and I contacted him and I made him an offer. I said, I would like to reprint your book at my expense. You will receive all of the royalties for the book, and your book can once again be available to the public. Tony accepted my offer with the condition that we split any of the royalties that would come from the sale of the books. So that's what we did. I digitized a people for his name. I added some footnotes to clarify some references that might not be easily understood by a modern audience. And I also created an index to the book, which it did not originally have. And I'll just say that I found creating an index to be quite a task. But I did it. We got it done, and that book is available on Lulu.com and through Rick.
All right, so well, that's good. No, you got a number of other books here. Now, what I'm going to do, we do give these books away, and that's how you get the books. We do give them away for like new callers calling in. Every once in a while during the program, I will say, okay, if I get a caller and answer this question, you get a book. So we do have it. We're ready to get this campaign really moving. So the 6 Screens is going to really dig into this effort and see if we can't get some of these books out. Now, if you're in Canada, that is the only problem. We're going to have to send you a digital book because it's just too much to go through. I had a woman in Canada that got a book, but I went to the post office and I had to go through customs and fill out all kinds of forms, and it was very expensive to send a book up there. So we don't ship them to Canada, but if you're in Canada, we'll get you a PDF copy. We'll get you electronic. Well, it won't be PDF, but it'll be from Lulu. They do have an electronic version. So that's how you're going to get a.
Yeah, it is PDF.
Oh, is it PDF? Okay. All right. It's good. So they'll be able to read it. Yeah, it is a PDF. All right. So that's good, Jim. So I want to tell you, I really appreciate the effort you put forward. You want to expose the Watchtower, let people know, and these are the books that can do it. So by all means, you guys keep listening into the 6 Screens. Now, what I'm going to do is when you guys do win a book, I've got about, how many books did you actually reprint, Jim?
Let's see. I think there's about 7, maybe 8.
All right.
Altogether.
Well, what I'll do is I do have a list here, and I will post it. Now, if you call and I say you win a free book, and you write to jwworldnews@gmail.com, I'll give you a list of the book you can pick. So do that. I'll show a picture of it as well, so you get an idea what it's all about. So we'll do that. Well, Jim, I want to thank you. Is there anything else you want to say to the audience before we cut you loose?
No, I think I don't want to take up too much time. I think that covers all the basic points for right now. So I'll let you get on with the rest of the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, though, Jim, for coming in, and we really appreciate it. And say hello to Jim and JWN. Let them know you heard him on the 6 Screens. He'd appreciate that. Thank you, Jim.
Oh, you're welcome, Rick.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. So there you have
Rick,
it.
and I am a real neighbor to David, and he called me in the Tiny Pixie newsroom, and he has a real scoop. The next time he calls, he told me not to go into it right now, but he's done some actual lobbying that might be very important in the future. So the next time you hear from David, it's going to be a big story.
Well, we'll be listening for you.
And if you call me at home, I'll let you know more about it. But I just don't want to broadcast what he told me today. But I was excited like the old days when I was a reporter. It's that good.
Is that you on the line?
Pixie?
Yeah, that's Pixie. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to reveal what David you're speaking about, but I'm a little confused because I have a brother named David. I'm sure you're not talking about him.
Oh no, I thought you were finished with your interview, and I wanted to let Rick know about this before Jimmy Bell's show comes on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Did you reprint Harp of God or Angels?
No, but I did send Rick a link to a place where you can download a PDF of that book. If you
well,
wish.
Thank you. I'll look for that. And he's supposed to send me Millions Now Living. I'm waiting because I want to use that brochure in my flapper reenactment costume. So Thank you for what you do.
All right. Your book is coming.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Brother Seven. I have a quick thing I need to ask you. Right when I was coming in tonight, at the very end, you were talking about a movie or something coming out. You know the name of it?
Yeah. Let's see. Let me get back in. I don't know if I got the name still up here. I got so many things happening here on the news.
Well, You Can Live Forever?
Oh, You Can Live Forever. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. They catch me off guard once in a while.
That's a movie?
That's a movie.
That's the name of the movie.
Yeah.
When is it coming out?
Well, the trailer is right now. I suppose it'll be out in the next. Usually they give a trailer, then about 2 months later it comes out.
I mean, is it gonna be like a big screen movie? Like,
yeah, it's gonna be a big screen movie.
theater?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like don't expect it to be an AMC and IMAX or anything, but it'll be in some of these, these smaller movie houses. I know it's gonna go to Brooklyn. I know you live in New York, but it's gonna play in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, let me know, okay? Let me know exactly because I definitely can never see it.
All right. Well, you stay tuned, and when it does come out, we'll mention it. Kim. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
please
you.
let me know. Let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So there you have it. Hey, I just want to mention David Wexler. You on there with us? Pixie tells me you got something really you want to share with us, but I couldn't. Sometimes David comes in, and when I finish talking, you guys ever do a newscast? Hey, have you ever been a news reporter and doing a newscast, and right in the middle of something, someone comes in and speaks up? I'm getting older here. I still can kind of walk and chew gum at the same time, but it's very hard to go back where you were. And I got clips I'm putting up. There's a lot going on. So that's why I always say, I'm done. When I'm done saying what I'm saying, then of course I'll be able to speak with people. So we'll listen to David. I got a good idea what he's talking about. I know he talked to Pixie about it, but I know what he does. I know what he does, and he's on here before the night's out. We'll get him and tell us about it. Okay. Okay. So anyways, I just want to bring this up right now. I want to know, do we have ex-Bethelite elder? Is he on with us? We told him to call in between 8:30 and 9 if he would. I believe we can offer some help to the Bethelite that's kind of blowing the whistle on the Watchtower. So we'll keep an eye open for him. I no guarantees. I just figured I'd take a shot and invite him on. So I'm going to be looking to see if ex-Bethelite elder comes on. He has a friend inside the Watchtower that's revealed some information to us at the onset of the program. We mentioned it. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're with us here tonight. We're giving you the news the Watchtower doesn't want you talking about. But I wanted to bring Nathan Natis or Jim Hill on. Very, very important. These books are really good books. I mean, they're first quality. And I really feel that if they can get in the hands of the right people, it can help so many people distance themselves from the Watchtower. So anyways, let me think what else we got going here. Well, this week, I believe it was Wednesday, and many congregations rolled out the carts. The cart. I mean, some witnesses had a love affair with their cart. And let me play the song. Let me play the song. Get you in the mood of cart witnessing. You remember this song, don't you?
Witnessing in your territory using a literature display cart. We have heard many good experiences from this form of the ministry. But in this next segment, a music video, find out what a day in service is like from the perspective of the cart. This is a big tune, which gives that little cart a big heart. This is entitled, If You Could See What I See.
I'm just a cart made up of bits and pieces, a frame, a handle, and some wheels. But I'm a cart that helps to give a witness. What is that like? Let me tell you how it feels. If you could see.
Wow, we won't play the whole song, but you get the idea. The witnesses were in love with their cart. And boy,
Triggered.
Huh?
I got triggered.
Yeah, so the witnesses were in love with their cart. Then the pandemic hit, and the carts were rolled into the garage and not to be taken out during the pandemic. Well, now this week, I believe it was Wednesday, like I say, the cart witnessing has begun. Now, did you know, and I didn't know this, but there had to be special training for even the witnesses to wheel one of these carts out, especially in the metropolitan area. There in the metropolitan area, you had to go through all kinds of hoops to be able to get a cart to witness to on the streets of, say, Manhattan or Chicago or Boston. You had to get permission from the circuit overseer. You had to have some training. I mean, what type of training you need? I mean, all you had to do was just stand next to a cart and, point them to the JW .org logo and get them on the website of jw.org. That's all you had to do. But anyways, what they wanted to do in the metro areas, they just didn't want everybody and anybody to go out and wheel a cart onto the street. They wanted the elite witness. They wanted the witness that would, had a good appearance. They dressed nicely. They talked nicely. This was a real PR campaign. As a matter of fact, when the cart witnessing came out, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but Johnny the Bethelite, he told us about the cart work a year before it even came into existence. When they first got the idea of putting carts on the street, they called it the Manhattan Project. Now, I know there's another Manhattan Project, but they kind of duped the same title. But they call it the Manhattan Project because that's where they were going to wheel these carts out, is in Manhattan, New York. And they were using these elite witnesses, and they still do to this day. But now if you're in, say, a rural part of the country, kind of like a real rural part of the country where there's not too much to do with a cart, you might be able to go down to the public library or maybe down to the shopping center. There's no real sidewalks per se. So they cut you a little more slack, but you still need permission from an elder to do that. You just can't take the cart and go out and say, okay, I'm here. But I mean, that's a lot easier, isn't it, than going door to door and huffing it. But the door-to-door ministry is not open right now. So the reason why I even brought this up tonight is because it just started last week. They resumed their public ministry. And so the cart work is going to be used to get the word out for Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're trying to get more and more people to take a cart. Now, maybe they relax the rules. I'm not quite sure, but I do believe you have to go out with someone that's been trained on how to handle the cart. I mean, how hard is that? I think that's
Rick.
Yes.
Hi. I just want to make a comment. I'm in my 50s, and when I was 18, I moved to an area and I needed a new job, and I answered a call that said B period E period S period T period, and I thought it meant the best company. I don't know if anybody's heard of the Best Buy company. And so I thought I was applying to that company. And so I called them up and they said, come on in. We're recruiting for the Best Buy company for sales and display. Bottom line, I get there. I'm just 18 years old and I'm sitting in a classroom and they use the same tactic for what the Jehovah's Witnesses are using to elevate the prestige of being selected to be a cart, a cart spokesperson for the Jehovah's Witness organization. So anyways, I spent 3 days, 6-hour days in a classroom. And on the third day, everybody was duped. And I'm talking about adults that were in their, 30s. And they said, we're going to show you what you're going to be doing for the best, company. And so they literally wheeled in a Kirby vacuum. And it was at that point where like 75% of the people who thought they were going to be hired for the best company, that was a big corporation, they left the classroom. And when they left the classroom, there was just people like myself who were very ignorant. And we didn't understand what was going on, but the ones who left were really mad. And so then after that point, they said the reason why the people left the classroom was they weren't qualified and and so they basically gaslighted the rest of the youngsters, which included myself. It was so bad. I fell for it so hook, line, and sinker that by the end of the day, they made us sign a piece of paper that we would not only sell the Kirby vacuum, but we would invest in one ourselves. And it was around $3,000 or $2,000 plus the training they tried to make us pay. And I literally, at the time, my mom had to go in to battle with me to try to get out of that contract that I signed. And this, what you're describing as this whole motivational video, motivational singing for this stupid cart, is so creepy. It just reminds me of how many times as a witness, we were told that it's a special privilege to work on the Kingdom Hall. It's a special privilege to be able to do bathroom duties and clean the toilets and do bathroom monitoring. And so it's just another example of gaslighting and making us feel that we have to not only qualify for this very basic common sense procedures to be able to push a cart. It's very insulting and degrading to our God-given intelligence. So thank you for letting me speak up. But this just, oh God, it just reminds me of the Kirby vacuum cleaning sales tactic.
Well, it's a sales tactic, Mary. It's a sales tactic.
Yeah.
No, they're not selling you a vacuum cleaner, but what they are doing is they're getting you all hyped up, and that's we talk about religious cults, or specifically the Jehovah's Witness cult, but there are also business cults too. It's not just there's cults in like Amway, for example. That's a business cult. Another cult would be we'll go with the stock cult on the market, Tesla.
Yes.
That's a cult stock. Now, just to bring us up to speed, the Watchtower, the Watchtower uses similar ways to get people to purchase their product. So it's just like watching a marketing ad on TV. They want attractive looking people, especially for the metro areas. That's where they were concerned mostly.
So they love bomb new members in the Jehovah's Witness organization because I wasn't raised in it, and so then you don't find out the truth about the organization until you are when you're baptized. Then you find out the whole truth. But they gaslight and they work on love bombing. So what they're doing is they're elevating the witnesses who are already beaten down, who are depressed, and they go. And so basically, we were looking for an opportunity to serve. And so if we served, then we were accepted. But they break you down to build you up. It's such a age-old tactic for any cult, like you said, the business Amway was another example. I can think of also there's also insurance company cult scams that incorporate God in with selling insurance, same thing. And so really appreciate you bringing this up because it's very sad that how many witnesses are truly involved into buying off on earning their way to Jehovah's approval. The only way for us we cannot earn our salvation. And this is really sad because these people are going to have to answer I believe in God, and thank God I didn't leave. Thank God after 10 years after leaving that cult and realizing how dangerous it was, I'm back to feeling normal. And I'm actually able to reach out to witnesses and tell them the truth about if they were open to it. But they're so closed. They have these witnesses so brainwashed into thinking that they're the judges of the public. So as they're servicing as they're witnessing about Jehovah as a witness with these carts, what they're doing is they're judging the public. And they literally had us convinced that it was us against the world, and anybody who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness was going to die in Armageddon. So they really are creating such a monster in the congregation, a very dangerous place to be, because if people don't wake up and they don't realize what they're doing is very dangerous, they're also under judgment, the severe judgment, because as you are servicing, when you're doing that cart and you're sharing to the public this not only false doctrine or false has nothing to do with God, has everything to do with using what I don't even want to sound religious right now. I don't, because I'm not religious. What they're doing is they're feeding off of people's emotions, and people need something right now. And so when they walk up to that cart, they have the witnesses, such as myself at the time when I was witnessing, feeling compelled to help somebody not die in Armageddon. It's just like, I just remember that feeling every time I went to the witness hall. I felt so guilty and shamed if I didn't have enough hours, or if I didn't didn't apply for, for bathroom duty or whatever. I just always felt like it was never enough. And the minor tactics that the elders used when they realized that you had too much joy, like if you went to the hall and you were feeling super happy and like joyful, they had these little minor tactics to break you down. So it's all so clear to me now that I've been out for more than a decade, how abusive they are on a micro level.
Well, abuse runs rampant. And that cart song that we played a portion of, that wasn't made up by the Bethelites. They hired a marketing firm. And from what I understand, the Disney marketing, a high executive at Disney, was working with the Watchtower, putting a lot of this stuff together, a lot of the new videos, a lot of the new music. So, this is also
it's interesting.
Yeah, hold on, Mary. It's
interesting how we, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Interesting how we never took the time to go to Disneyland, even though interesting how we were told, and we were kind of, it wasn't really, even though there was some of us Jehovah's Witnesses who did go to college. I was one of them. I finished my college education, but it was frowned upon. Basically, it was very frowned upon. So I really did get punished for that, those years of going to school. But it's interesting because the witnesses we weren't really taught to go to school or get our education. So, but yet they hire lawyers, yet they hire these high marketing executives, things such as that. But the witnesses are supposed to just be basic, just conforming, mindless. You do exactly what the governing body says and the magazines. So I'm really going to want to say something else here too. What really?
Well, let's just stop here for a second. Let's just stop for a second. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Okay, just slow down for a second.
Sorry.
I just want to mention, is ex-Bethelite on with us? Ex-Bethelite elder, if he's on here with us, I wrote on Reddit today. If ex-Bethelite elder is on with us tonight, go ahead. Now's the time to speak up. All you have to do is hit *6 to speak up on your telephone line. Ex-Bethelite elder, we only got a few minutes left, so I'd love to have you come on, just say a few things, get you back on. Is ex-Bethelite elder on with us? Well, evidently not.
If he's not, Rick, do you mind?
Well, Joe, we don't have.
I could add
well, what would you like to add, Joe? We only got a few minutes here. And in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Joe. I'll tell you what I'm going to do with you, okay? I got to leave here 10 minutes. I got to get to some guys on our other channel for YouTube.
Okay, that's fine.
So, no, listen to me. Joe, just listen to me. Okay, can people just listen? Can people, people listening to me? I don't know if they are or not. Joe, I was going to ask you. In fact, Mary, I'll ask you, okay? Mary, you still with us?
Joe, I was going to ask you. In fact, Mary, I'll ask you.
I'm still here.
All right, Mary, why don't you, we got about 10 minutes here. Then I got to get into YouTube here and give some people some links, and it's hard to do it during my program. Well, why don't you kind of take about 10 minutes here and talk to the audience, and maybe if someone wants to come and talk with you and kind of hold the fort for about 10 minutes. Can you do that?
Oh, sure.
All right. So why don't you...
Adding to your comment.
Who's this?
This is Joe from Colorado.
All right, Joe and Mary, take the show over for the next 10 minutes while I step into the studio here and try to get some people on our YouTube coming up next. Okay? Go ahead.
Great.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mary, really enjoyed your input. I was actually the service overseer the last 5 years before I found myself excommunicated, but there was actually an application process for the cart witness, and some of those questions, when I looked over the application, and of course this was right when I was getting ready to leave, some of those questions were very triggering for anybody that would have been judicially reproved, this fellowship. they actually ask questions like, were you disfellowshipped in the last 5 years? So it's so sad that, they want these individuals to have this esteemed privilege to have a card, but they have to go through a vetting process. And they have to go through an application process where, what if they were disfellowshipped like 4 or 5 years ago? What does that application do to their brain? It triggers them. Yes. And, you mentioned that the cart witnessing and what the Watchtower does, their model. What's really sad about the whole thing, the organization is it's a privilege-based organization. The only way you get privileges is by giving more and more. I'm going to give you one quick example of this, okay, and then I'll let you talk. I got caught up in circuit and district speaking, and once I got my first circuit talk, a brother told me, and this is what he told me. He said, "You want to continue to have circuit assembly talks, district convention talks, keep